Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a new video. I'm gonna be doing my Q&A video that I did about like a week and a half ago. I'm finally getting around to doing this, so I'm just gonna read off some questions that y'all asked me, and I'm gonna do my best to answer them. So let's get started. First question comes from Big D James. He asks, "Hey man, congratulations. Been watching for a while. What's your favorite concert you have been to? Also, least favorite concert?" Well, thank you for watching my videos. So, my favorite concert that I've been to so far has been, of course, Iron Maiden. It's hard to describe which one because I've seen them 4 times. It's a tie between 2019 when I saw them up in Nashville and then last October where I saw them up in Greensboro, North Carolina. I think they were both like really great. I feel like Iron Maiden are just a great live band, my all-time favorite band and best band to see live. And like they pretty much put every like bands that are like 30 years younger of them or more to shame live. It's just insane of what they do. They're just amazing. And he also asks, also least favorite concerts. Well, the concert itself wasn't bad, but having to sit through Butcher Babies back in 2016 while I was seeing Cradle of Filth for the first time, that was, ugh, they're just terrible. I just don't really like them. But yeah, that's just to answer your question. Next couple concert, not couple questions are from Hardcore HJS. He asks, "Yo, congrats, man. Been watching for almost 2 years. Right on, thank you. And your content deserves more. Damn right it should have. What are some best local Georgia metal bands? I already know some, but trying to find new music. Also, we be at the Angel Maker concert in September. Thanks, man." All right, so local concert, local bands you should check out from Georgia are my boys in Actus Reus. They're killing it. My boys in Left to Suffer, they're pretty much local, but they've been blowing up, which is insane. And of course, there's like smaller bands like Withered and Cloak are also cool people. And I think Malformity's killing it. I don't know. There's just Men Black Candle are pretty good. And as far as the Angel Maker concert in September, maybe. I just know that's the same day as the last day of Prog Power, so I don't know. Maybe. Next question you asked is, what band have you seen the most live, and what's your favorite newer and older deathcore band? The band I've seen live the most is probably Obituary. I've seen them now 10 times. Like, I don't even try to see them live that much, but it just happens to be that way. I just don't plan on it. It just happens, and I don't know. I've seen them enough times, so I don't know. Maybe I say it then, but I'll end up somehow getting sucked into going with them. And he also asks, what's your favorite newer and older deathcore band? Probably newer band is probably either Shadow of Intent and Lorna Shore. Shadow of Intent are pretty much killing it. They have like those death metal influences, but they also have hints of black metal too. And Lorna Shore, I mean, I used to be iffy with Lorna Shore, but they've definitely grown on me, especially after the Hellfire video, and ever since then they've gotten mega fucking popular, and I'm happy for them. And I saw them last month where they were opening for Mastodon and Gojira, and they were pretty sick. And as far as older deathcore, I mean, of course I love my boys in Carnifex. I like Whitechapel, well, just to name a few. So yeah, let's see what other one. And he asks, last question, what's your favorite video game of all time? Favorite video game of all time definitely has to be Sly Cooper. Grew up with those PlayStation games. Like, I grew up a PlayStation guy. I played like that. Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorites. Spyro the Dragon for PlayStation 1. Definitely one of my all-time favorites. Even Jak and Daxter. Those are like my favorites. I don't really keep up with much newer games nowadays. I don't know. That's just me. I'm not like a huge gamer as I was when I was like a kid. Anyway, next question comes from Deathcore Fan 69. Yeah, it says, new sub, man. First off, congratulations on the milestone. Thank you very much. Second, what's your favorite place to buy albums in Georgia? Asking because I live near the Atlanta area. Well, if you live near the Atlanta area, you should check out Criminal Records down in Little Five Points. I tend to go there sometimes. I was there a few weeks ago before the Dark Funeral Cattle Decapitation show, which is at that venue Variety Playhouse, which is in that area. It's a pretty cool place, even though they overprice their shit. And another place I go to that's like 15 minutes from me is CD Warehouse in Marietta off of Bells Ferry Road. It's a pretty cool place. I sometimes find some really cool stuff. So yeah, those are some places I would recommend you checking out. Next few questions comes from Seditions Through Scorns. Sup, Jake? He has a couple questions. So, first question is, what's your stance on modern day era of deathcore with bands such as Lorna Shore, Signs of the Swarm, Died as Murder, Carnifex, and Born of Osiris? And do you think the genre of deathcore is getting better as a whole? I think that deathcore is definitely evolving. Like, I know a lot of people like say, like, especially with some bands that are incorporating clean vocals like Whitechapel. But I just think it's a time to like evolve and try to like change stuff, and that would sort of like piss off like sort of like the normie deathcore fans. And I think they definitely evolve. Like, I still have the classic stuff, like I mentioned. I like Whitechapel, Carnifex, Despised Icon, and of course the newer bands like Lorna Shore and Shadow of Intent, and even Of Sulfur. I should have like mentioned as like part of one of my favorite newer bands or deathcore bands. Definitely are getting better as a whole. Well, I think it's looking bright. Second question you asked is, what are your favorite albums that you would consider masterpieces with no bad songs that fans should listen to if they're getting into the metal scene? Rest in Peace by Megadeth. Obviously, it's my all-time favorite album. I just think it's perfect from beginning to end. I love Slayer, Rain and Blood, Metallica, Master of Puppets, Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse, even like the first Black Sabbath. Like, I think those are like, in my opinion, classics. Question 3. What genre of metal do you consider underrated that hardly anyone discusses? That's a very good question. I would have to say melodic death metal, because I think whenever there's like so many subgenres, like I feel like melodic death metal is great. They incorporate sort of like that classic Tampa death metal scene with like some traditional like heavy metal like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, with like hints of like Swedish folk combined together to make something really heavy but also beautiful at the same time. I just think it's really great. Fourth question you asked, what was the first record label you discovered that had a cultural impact on you that made you be a huge listener of Extreme this very day? Probably it's either Metal Blade Records or Nuclear Blast. I think they both sign like most extreme bands. Like, of course, they have like the death metal bands and black metal bands. Definitely really great label to have like those extreme kind of stuff bands on there. Last question. What's the perfect meal to eat before attending concerts? Whatever I'm in the mood for. Usually I have some Subway. If I'm like going to like Masquerade, there's like a Subway near Underground that's not far from like a good walking distance. That's just what I would go to, since that's like mostly the shows I go to, and just whatever I see is in the area. So yeah, let's see what other questions I got. Last one comes from Strong Boys 19. Sup, Greg? Hey, you asked, awesome milestone and you deserve more. Which albums got you into metal, and who were your favorite musicians you've interviewed with so far? The albums that got me into metal were first time I heard Chop Suey or the Toxicity album by System of a Down. I was like, wow, what is this? And that pretty much got me into metal. And then discovered heavier bands and other types of metal and stuff. And favorite musicians I've interviewed so far, like I've interviewed Bobby Blitz from Overkill, was a great one. I had interviewed Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth, which I thought was good, but even though I feel like that interview was probably one of my least favorites, because I felt it was forced and rushed. I didn't have, and that was like given to me last minute, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to write questions, so I had to do like the history thing like I have been doing, but I would have redone that one. And also liked interviewing Mick Hell from Dark Tranquillity. I thought was pretty cool. Those are like some of my favorite musicians I've interviewed so far. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all the questions that you've all asked me. Thank you guys for all the questions. Hope to see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.